Alright, welcome to week 3 of my divine AD2L content. It's your boy Claire, and this was an interesting week. First of all, I predicted everything correctly, uh, which is kind of cool. We're gonna pretend I didn't write this. But it was also a weird week, of course, because we had the new patch. So all these games were played, what was it, like 2 hours after the patch came out. There was some pretty weird shit. It's also going to be kind of hard to talk about certain things now that there's not really a meta for a while. I mean, these picks and games with the heroes really seem all over the place, and I'm not here to give you my garbage opinions on the patch, so let's just jump into the games. First match here, Grin Ethereal versus, what was it, DC Clan. We predicted a 2-0 for DC Clan. That's exactly what happened. Game 1 looks pretty close, actually. If we look down here at the net worth chart, it looks real back and forth for a bit. Looks like pretty major team fight loss probably allowed DC Clan to take it. Grin Ethereal's draft is pretty weird. They're running the safe lane OD. I felt like most people looked at this patch and it's like, yeah, OD got gutted. But I guess Pixie, OD player, really wanted to believe or something. Tried to run safe lane OD. Looks like it went pretty badly. Trying out the new Witchblade item. 2, 6, and 5. Shit's gone wrong, but I assume mostly off the back of this Wind Ranger they managed to hold out for a while. But DC Clan eventually took it, running a more normal looking lineup. Pretty heavy push, Dro, Pugna, Underlord. Game 2 was not as close, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the mid laner from DC Clan went absolutely ham on this Wind Ranger, 21, 1, and 16. The kill store's 50 to 12. This is just destruction. Once again, the draft is weird, I think, from Grin. Um, it's less weird than the last one, but it's still a bit strange. Offlane mag wasn't really a thing last patch, I don't think. It was really mostly a mid or a 5. I've heard some people trying to bring it back this patch, but I mean, this doesn't even look like an offlane mag build, so I'm not sure what's going on here. Yeah, uh, not a whole lot to say. I'm glad that Grin put up a good fight game 1 at least. Because as much as I don't think they're gonna win many games, I do want to see them win games. So it's nice to see that they're like at least competitive in some of these games. DC Clan as well. Let's see. We currently have these guys at C tier. I don't think we're moving Grin today. And honestly, I don't really think we're moving DC Clan either. I don't think this win was super impressive because I think they were punching down. And they also did struggle in one of the games, but, overall looks fine. I don't think this team is bad. I've gone ahead and included the actual scores as well here for reference, and they're doing okay. They're middle of the pack. If they can manage to score again next week, especially if they 2-0 again next week, I think it would be fair to move them up. But I don't know. I don't have a ton of faith quite yet. So yeah, that's that match. Next up, we have Vapor versus O's. And this one's interesting for an unexpected reason. Um, so O's won this, both games. I think, the game was definitely back and forth. But, gosh, like here especially, it really looks like, it's like it's just swap around where Dire has a slight advantage early, which is Team O's. Then Radiant, like, really came back and somehow threw the game. I don't know if there was a rape. Was there a rapier in this game? That graph is wild. Did PA buy and lose a rapier? No. I mean, so, Teemo's definitely didn't stomp this match or anything. Looks like they just killed them all, maybe outside their base, probably top or something. Wait, this is the wrong base. Oh shoot, so Teemo's actually lost both their 2-4s before winning this game. So yeah, this looks pretty intense. I mean, this may even be a good game to go back and watch or cast for those that are into that. We have 2 weeks off, 2 weeks till the next matches, so I'm considering going back and watching a couple. It's kind of a shame the patch came out right before the break because I feel like some of these games are going to be really weird. To like, even if the meta obviously isn't going to settle like in just 2 weeks, I don't even think there's any major tournaments coming up, is there? I mean, I don't keep up with that shit. I don't know. But the day of patch stuff is guess definitely going to be like extra weird, I think. But I don't know. This one looks kind of interesting to me. I never did go back and watch the one I talked about last week, so I probably won't. But it's certainly interesting. I think game two was a little more stompy. Yeah, this is where Teemos look like they just held tempo the entire time. They didn't lose a single T2 tower. What did they run? They ran a safe lane Kunko, which is pretty wild. They have a mid Dusa actually. Oh, gosh, they picked a Dusa early too. They don't show shards on Dota buff yet, which is lame. I hope they add that soon, because I don't intend to look on anything but Dota buff. There's too much effort. Looks like Dusa had a really good game. Almost 800 GPM, 10 CS a minute. I mean, it's not crazy for a Dusa, but she may have had more early. Yeah, it looks pretty tempo-y. But actually, the thing that really interested me about what was going on here, I didn't really look at the games too much beforehand, but I did notice, if I look on the site, the roster has changed for Vapor. Charbs is gone, and they've also changed their four. This was Mr. Wouter. That's right, Mr. Wouter was on this team. So they've like changed their 3 and 4. They've officially changed their 4 on the site, and they are using that 4. Their offlane, they haven't made a change like on the site, but they've been using this K7 person. Um, so yeah, that's really interesting. I I was surprised to look and see that they're like half their roster had changed. Um, I think it's after roster lock too, right? I thought roster lock was like earlier this season. So that's kind of wild. But what's even crazier is that they still don't have a fifth showing on the site. I don't know if it's going to be K7 or if this was just a stand-in for 1 week, but I'm a little curious what happened honestly, because they definitely did have a rough time on their first week. I mean, their offlane is against idiots, right? Pretty sure it was against idiots. Their offlane really didn't do very well, and they're playing in like multiple leagues, which is really weird, honestly. Like, they're playing in 3 different leagues at the same time. That's intense. So I'm not sure if like Charbs and Wouter just tapped out because it was too much, or if these are like try hard. If it's like a try hard, heavy fisted captain that's like, oh, you did badly, you're off the team. Hopefully not the latter, because that's honestly really fucking lame in amateur leagues. But yeah, okay, it was against idiots. I think Charbs and oh, they didn't even use Mr. Wouter this week. The previous week they played. So yeah, I don't know. I guess Mr. Wouter was maybe never on the team to begin with, and then Charbs also left. It was interesting to see. I don't know if there's gonna be like announcements when they finish like figuring shit out or not, but I'll just keep checking, see if this gets updated. Looks like K7's actually played a few times, probably in these other leagues. Well, definitely in these other leagues. So maybe this is going to be their new person. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Thought that was just worth taking a look at. Overall, though, Team O's 2-0ing. I think 2-O's is or Team O's has really secured their spot in A tier. They're looking really strong. They're the second best team on the list. It was a pretty good call. Coconuts having a rougher time. We'll get to them later. Vapor, I mean, they had a pretty good game one. I don't feel like I want to move them up right now, especially with the roster instability. The fact that they're playing multiple leagues, I think, would normally be an advantage because they're just practicing a lot more as a team together than everyone else. But when they're a brand new team that's like still trying to secure 5 players, week 3, they're not actually having that much experience as a team. I mean, you have some teams this season that have been together for like 2 or 3 seasons, I think now, and this team is still changing players halfway through, like not even halfway through the group stage. So Yeah, I don't know. I think they gotta get a little more stable before I have more faith, or just win games, of course. But not a surprise they lost to O's. O's is a good team. What's up next? Okay, we have our favorite Legend squad with a difficult to pronounce name, and Antikythera. Apologize again if I'm saying that wrong. Versus Victoria's Secret. AD2L's favorite. Well, I don't actually know if that's true, but my favorite, Master. I've actually only played with him like twice, but whatever. Master fucking owned. Uh, we see a PL performance, went 14 and 2. His mid also had a lot of kills, also a lot of deaths. Mode Bambino on the Dark Willow. The game like looks a little shaky on the net worth graph, but I look at this team and I look at this PL's farm, and I'm thinking, I don't know. It looks like Radiant was really in control. They did lose a Rax, so maybe they were in trouble at some point, but this PL doesn't look like he was ever particularly afraid or shut down. I mean, when did he die? Died. Okay, so both his deaths were actually at the same time. Oh wait, no, this one's an Aegis death. So he had a laning death, which doesn't really matter. This is probably when they lost their Rax. This is when the this is I assume when they lost their mid Rax, and they managed to come back. Okay, maybe it was a bit closer than I initially realized when I was skimming over the Dota buffs. But either way, Master had a very good game. These guys are putting up a pretty good fight, man. I'm still a little sad for them that they had to play in Divine because they haven't won a game yet. They're kind of getting crushed, but they aren't like getting totally crushed, you know. They haven't won a game, but they're clearly putting up some good fights. So who knows? It seems like at least one of either Pat or Sadman has a good game every time. I don't think this is the most impressive Dusa performance I've ever seen, but it looks like they're at least doing okay. And then game two, I think Pat had a better performance game two, right? They did once again, just okay on DP. I think this game was even more of a stomp. Yeah, I don't know if their spirits were broken by game two or whatever, but Victoria's Secret didn't lose a T2, in control the entire time. Master once again went off on the Wraith King, a hero that I think is looking to be pretty strong this patch. I've seen a lot of people playing it in pubs. It seems like the crit is... Honestly, when I first saw it, I thought they'd nerfed him. But I guess the crit is working pretty well for laning, more than anything. So, I think we're going to be seeing a fair bit of this when the next week games get played. Maybe especially in the lower divs. I kind of keep an eye on at least contenders since my other friends on Wasted Youth are down there. I figure we'll see some more Wraith King. I don't know. Just worth noting, I thought. I think his pick rate was one of the highest increases too, if I'm remembering correctly. But either way, this game was a bit more of a stomp. Their offlaner had a good time on the Night Stalker, 7-4 and 24 as well. The mid's going for some weird picks. Dark Willow and then Silencer. I don't know how much of this is like new patch excitement and they're just trying weird shit, or if this is like stuff they're actually going to keep on playing. But we'll see. Those are kind of interesting. They don't really look like they had a particularly great game on either, but they didn't have a bad game either. You know? Or neither. Yeah, fuck. That was a fucked sentence. But they. Both games, it looks like they didn't have a great game, but it doesn't look like they did too badly either. A lot of kills and a lot of deaths in the first game. Once again, one of the most deaths on the team, but also good kill participation. Good damage too, most damage in the game. That's something that might be worth keeping an eye on, because I think this item getting added may have buffed the viability of a lot of int cores. Silencer I think is a big one, since I believe they also got some other buffs, or like the shard I think people are saying is good for core Silencer. Who knows? At the end of the day, I think this was a bit of a, not a mismatch, but definitely punching down for Victoria's Secret. Oh, as with every series this week, we predicted correctly that Victoria's Secret would 2-0. And yeah, once again, I don't feel inclined to move anything. I'm probably not going to move any of these, except for maybe Coconuts. Because this tier list existed with these results in mind, and I got them all correct, so... Yeah, whatever. We'll keep going. Willgang versus Hellbears, I think, was one of the more interesting games. Or one of the games that I was more interested in seeing how it went, I should say. Wilgang was kind of in a weird position because they got a free 2-0 week 1, and then they beat us week 2, and so they're going into Hellbears undefeated, but only with 2 games under their belt. Oh, why is this not working? There we go. So I was very interested to see how they would do versus Hellbears, because I think Hellbears is easily, I mean, they've just proven it at this point, really. They are the strongest team this season, seemingly by a pretty large amount, too. And so it'd be interesting, because I thought Wilgang looked pretty good, if they would be able to put up a good fight or take a game off of Hellbears. I didn't expect them to. Like, I hedged my bets on Hellbears 2-0ing, but that's probably not the right phrase, but whatever. Um, but I thought it was possible, at least, and I would be curious to see if they could. They were not able to, but game 1, we see they did have control for a while. Before things just it's actually crazy to look at this. Things just went completely out of control. Like just death after death after death after death for Wilgang after what looked like a pretty early mid game. But it's also worth noting that Hellbears didn't actually ever lose a T2, so maybe it may not have been as even as it looked here. Uh, but it didn't look like a total stomp, I don't think. I mean, the kills are pretty skewed, but at least it looks like there was 30 minutes of even fighting. But we'll see. Okay, so game 2 is not ticketed. Stupid ass. I do have them open, though. So game 2, we can't see the graph on this one, but once again, the kills are super skewed towards Hellbears. This one honestly looks like even more of a stomp, I think. That seems to be the case with a lot of these. If game 1's close and the same team wins game 2, they win a lot harder on game 2. Master goes off, Lethal Kittens went off. Control, I think that's Boomy. What, are you Boomy or are you Control? I think you're Control on Discord, right? Whatever. Control didn't have as great a game as the first game, but I'm pretty sure Lifestealer got dumpstered this patch, so I'm not super surprised. I've heard a lot of mixed thoughts on that. Some people seem to think it's really good to have that constant slow, but I'm not convinced yet. We'll see. Got a couple weeks till more AD2L games come out, but there should be some more pub data by then at least. The fucking first week or two after a patch comes out, the pub data I think is pretty fucking useless for the most part. It's just no one knows what they're doing. See, that was that. Once again, not a surprise. 2-0. I'm not gonna move Wilgang down for that. Oh, I guess they have a picture now, don't they? Maybe I should actually use their picture. I probably could have done that last week. Hold up. Let's fix this. Is connecting in insert image in sale. Kind of like Control V it. Let's just use the URL. There we go. They have their actual picture now. I'm not gonna punish them for losing for Hellbears, obviously. Hellbears very good team. I think Wilgang is still maybe in the position to move up to A tier. We'll see how they do next week. I won't get too ahead of myself because we are going to talk about next week as well. So let's just hop on to the next game for now. Wards and Base versus Dumbledore. Honestly, looking through these, especially like the first ones, like these last two, not so much. But these earlier matchups, so many of these felt like there was like major punching down. Like Victoria's Secret versus Antithekra, DC Clan versus Grin, and Dumbledore versus WIB. Even Hellbears versus Wilgang to some extent, I think. Like, I think there was a reason I was able to get so many of these correct. I think Gambit got most of them correct too. I don't remember exactly. He hasn't done his content yet, but I did check to see if he had also. I think he got most of them correct as well. But I think a lot of these were just kind of mismatches. Like they made sense in terms of the wins, but I think the teams are just super like wild this season, to be honest. Like I think there's a pretty big skill difference between the top teams and the bottom teams. So there's been some like weird shit, and but because I think Wards and Base versus Dumbledore was very stompy. is why I'm prefacing with all this. The graph is just whew. But it is worth noting, Warts and Base did get very experimental. Like they saw the new patch and their brains just went like whir. Like I don't even know what the fuck they were thinking, to be honest. They have a safe lane Venge, a mid Dazzle. They basically have just drafted 5 supports, and it didn't go very well. Idolatry went ham on this Ember Spirit, 17-1. He must have been scared of something, because he has an Aeon Disc. Maybe he got like lassoed and died at some point. Um, when did he die? He died at the end. He died after he got the Aeon Disc, so I don't know what happened. But anyway, it looks pretty stompy. There's once again a PL in this game. This PL does not look to be particularly contested by these heroes. If this PL got one more item, I'm sure he'd be completely unstoppable. T2's all up for Dumbledore. Game 2 was a bit better, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Wards and Base has a much more normal looking draft. They have a mid tiny for some tempo. They have an actual carry. They swap the lanes around, but a carry Terrorblade. The Brewmaster is another hero I've been hearing a lot of good things about. I don't know if his win rate went up, but it seems like a lot of people were happy with Brewmaster changes. I don't know if the hero actually got changed or if people were just over obsessing about the shard, but I went from not seeing, I don't think I've seen that hero in like a month before the patch, and I've just seen like 3 since the patch came out. So this game there was a bit of a either throw or a comeback, depending how you want to look at it. Around the 30-minute mark, pretty big lead, 10k lead that Dyer threw away at one point, but they brought it back. Idolatry once again having a great game. Butter Greg, bit rougher on the Ricky than the PL, but it looks like Jay also had a good game. So I don't know. I mean, you know, every when one team has 20 more kills than the other, I guess they all kind of look like they have a good game, don't they? But another silencer. I think it was a lot of silencers this week. If I remember correctly, it may have been the most picked hero this week, like on the ticket. So all the divs and only ticketed games, but still, people seem to like it. Yeah, so this was pretty stompy. I mean, I guess there was like all the other series that were pretty stompy. There was at least a little bit of a fight that happened, a little bit of fear into the team that eventually won. I think Greg said that game 2 when I talked to him after. He's like, yeah, game 2 was a little rough. I assume this is what he was referring to. This little patch here where they almost lost. They didn't end up losing a T3, so it wasn't that bad. It looks like, but they definitely did throw a gold lead. Honestly, I feel like Dumbledore has had a very interesting set of matches, because who have they played? They played Victoria's Secret, Team O's, and now Wards and Base. What's crazy is that Team O's is really the best team they faced. I mean, the only time Team O's has lost was to Dumbledore. Um, and then, I mean, Wards and Base got 2-0'd by them, which isn't surprising. You know what? I almost moved Dumbledore up a tier last week, and I decided not to, but I'm actually gonna go ahead and do it now. You know, have some balls here and put them up one. Because I think they deserve it, to be honest. They've been doing pretty well. I think of all the 4-4 teams, they have the most impressive record. Like, Creature got a forfeit win, Wilgang got a bye win. My team is whatever the fuck we're doing. So I think they are the most impressive of the 4-win teams, so we'll put them up one tier for now. Kind of put them up with Team O's. Because I think they did do pretty well. Wards and Basers can chill here for now. I don't have any reason to move them down, even though it probably sounds bad. I feel like I might just be being overly self-conscious, but I feel like I talk a lot of smack. I don't really mean it, but they have just had a rough season so far. Who are they playing this week? Okay, that's not getting any better. But yeah. I think this was the most expected 2-0. If Wards and Base did take a game, I think there would definitely be some movement, more significant movement in the tier list, because that would show that they are able. I mean, from the throw slash comeback, it does look like they're probably capable of taking a game off of one of the better teams, but if they actually did it, then I'd be much more inclined to move them up, and I definitely would have. I think I said last week This was probably not going to be an interesting series, but if it didn't end up as a 2-0, it would be very interesting. But that didn't happen. So we'll go on to my own game. Creature versus Coconuts. So on my tier list, Coconuts should definitely have 2-0'd me. But I have an ego, and I don't want to lose to AD2L admins. Rurik once told me when I became admin that as soon as you become an admin, you become dog shit at Dota. Which means that Coconut Gaming has basically lost their mid player because he's an admin now. And I'm not an admin anymore, so my gaming power has returned. So I think that was a big advantage that allowed us to 2-0 this. But let's go over this. We have game 1 here. I can talk a bit about it more than just what the Dota buff shows since I was actually in the game. I didn't get to watch any of the others last week like I did this week, unfortunately. So this is the only one I got inside info on. But either way, let's get to it. They did have very good control for the earlier part of the game, got all the way up to a 10k lead. They even took a T3. I'll be honest, we were not super afraid of losing though. We have this very memey anti-armor shit going on with Slardar Revenge, Ag's Tide, Clinks, and I think all their cores just suck against it. Like Lifestealer's notoriously bad against this kind of thing. Lifestealer, I think, or Viper, I think, is notoriously bad against this kind of thing as well. Men end up buying 2 plate mails, mode Master Z. Then they last picked a Timber as well. I think Timber makes a lot of sense against heavy physical. It owned the Tide in lane. I think it's pretty good against the Clinks, but against Slardar, I've always been of the opinion that if there's too much anti-armor, Timber gets pretty bad pretty fast. If, like, the one thing he's very good about not dying against can suddenly start two-shotting him because he's down to, like, negative 10 armor before he's got his stacks up, the hero just feels bad. And I think H agreed with me on that, and he plays a lot of Timber, most played hero. So I think that may have been a bit of a mistake, although it definitely worked in the lane, and they almost snowballed hard enough to win. But we were just kind of in the mindset that it's like, once we get our BKBs, they just die. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, these later fights, we didn't lose a person. We didn't lose a hero. Like, we literally would just walk in, Clinks would just two-shot 2 cores, and then everyone else would die. And that's just how all the later fights went. Clinks would just two-shot people, because he had a BKB, so he wouldn't die, and we had shit tons of anti-armor. So, game 2, so game 1 I think was maybe a bit of an outdraft on our part. Game 2, I'm pretty sure they outdrafted us. I think they outdrafted us pretty hard. Well, I call him my coach, but he doesn't actually coach the team. He just sits in the channel and occasionally pings Polo. But he did actually look at this game for some reason and said, you guys definitely should have lost because your draft was shit, which was very nice of him to tell me. But I was kind of aware at some point already that this maybe wasn't my finest draft. The Lifestealer, I think, was pretty... We picked Lifestealer super early. I mean, I guess I said earlier I thought Lifestealer was bad this patch. I thought Lifestealer was bad this patch during this draft as well, but my carry player wanted it, so I gave it to him. And I don't think it went super well. We also laned it with a Warlock, which was kind of whack. But this game was intense. This game was 80 minutes long. Most of the rapiers were on the ground by the end of the game, but there was actually 7 rapiers in this game. If we go over to builds, I'm just going to show you what Luna did with her gold. Deadass just bought 5 rapiers. I think the other 2 were Polo. Oh no, Madojam bought 1. And then Polo just buy 1? Yeah, and then Polo bought 1. So Luna was the supplier of rapiers. We had a lot of rapiers. We had like 5 at one point. They're all from Luna, or most of them were from Luna, which was very nice of her. Madojam had a great game on the Night Stalker. I'm really, I kind of already knew, but I'm entirely convinced after playing them that Madojam is definitely the star of this team. He had really good games both times. I wonder if he actually has, one of the higher... Offlane isn't even a role that you necessarily get very high KDAs, but I bet he probably has the highest on his team. He does. Hollow. I guess their old player did pretty well too. But yeah, this isn't surprising to see. This guy owns. The game was very long. I don't entirely understand how we won, to be honest. I don't entirely think we should have won either. But we won. Polo had a very good game. I don't know. I don't know much else to say. There's two Giants rings. It was an interesting game. It was a lot of kills too. Like it wasn't crazy for how long it was. It was just over one a minute, but it was pretty interesting. I'm not necessarily sure I'd advise anyone to go back and watch it. There's definitely a pretty large period of time where there wasn't much going on, but there was a lot of net worth swings. There was a lot of rapiers going back and forth, so it was a very interesting game to play, at least. Um, I do, however, as promised last week, feel the need to move Coconuts down after that. They played pretty well. They put up a good fight both games. I think both games were pretty close. Game 2 absolutely could have gone either way. Game 1, they almost managed to snowball to a win, but at the end of the day, they did still lose. And I think most importantly, they lost the game that I think they outdrafted us in. So it doesn't quite feel fair to leave them up here with O's. I don't really care so much about the fact they are like on the bottom of the scoreboard. It's only week 3. I think it's very likely they're going to win most of their games after this. They've had pretty rough matchups, getting 2-0'd by Hellbears and then losing to us so far. So, but you know, I don't want to leave them in A tier. So I don't think they're honorary wizards yet either. So we're just gonna put them in B. Yeah, move shit over. No shit, what have I done? I think that's probably gonna be the only change here. So anyway, yeah, that was my games. They were very fun. I had a good time. Wasted Idiots versus Paradox Gaming. Let's see what this is about. Yeah, so Wasted Idiots had a very interesting game. Honestly, if you were gonna go back and watch anything from this week, I would go back and watch the last 5 minutes of this game. Because this was the wildest shit I've ever seen. Wasted Idiots is 22 kills behind, and they won. And you're probably thinking, how did they do that? And I don't really have an answer other than go watch it for yourself. Go watch the last 5 minutes. It's like the weirdest shit. To give you a brief summary, Paradox just like chased them to the ends of the earth. And Radiant, the idiots, just kept moving in and out. Like, I think both PA and Clinks both fell to like 100 HP multiple times and barely got out. The Pudge saved people a couple times. I think Slinky may have just like solo killed the Faceless Void with the Darkseer shard, where he just made an illusion and the Void killed himself. It was very chaotic. Not a very good showing from idiots, to be honest, even though they won, because they just got like dumpstered. They lost all their lanes. They lost most of the game. Like they just didn't kill anything. They just like died. And then randomly at the end, they just managed to get a bunch of really weird kills. They didn't fall too far behind on gold, I guess. It's 20k. They have some items at least, so I guess it wasn't totally dire, but I mean they were really losing. And the way they won was super bizarre. Like I don't know what Paradox was doing. I think Radiant did make some really good like outplays in that last 5 minutes, but it's also no, it's just weird. Go watch it if you're into that. Game 2, these guys also didn't ticket because they're idiots. But I have the game here. Game 2, idiots lost. Really went off on the troll. Rise had a great game on the bat. Looks like they just did well overall. Not a lot to say. It looks like a pretty crushing victory for Paradox Gaming. Choco on the mid. That's his name, by the way. I know that's not his name on the site or in Steam right now, but everyone calls him Choco. It looks like he did okay on the Ember, but not enough to stop his team from feeding and losing the game. Yeah. Not a lot to say about this one because it's not on Dode Buff, so I can't look at anything specific, and they got dumpstered. So, it was not a very good week for idiots, to be honest. They went 1-1, but I don't think they performed super well, so they're definitely going to stay in the bad tier. They actually can't get any lower. I've already made a second, tier, like an additional tier, just for them. I'm not going to make another one. So, you're stuck there. Now, Paradox is actually going to be a little interesting. So, I guess we can actually go back to game 1. They had stand-ins game 1. Was missing. and then came back game 2. That's not them. Did I close it? Oh, yeah, and came back for game 2. Was it just or was it 2? Rise was there both games. Oh, yeah, that's right. They also had this fucking really high ranked stand-in that Waff's allowed for some reason. He's like, yeah, let's chill. Oh, they're Divine 3 now? I'm pretty sure this is like just some ranked player smurf. I don't. It's weird looking. X rank 574, currently Divine 3. And it's got like no games on it. I mean, I'm not gonna look at it. He allowed the stand-in, so whatever. It's cool. It's legal if he allows it, I think. But I don't know why he did. It seems weird. Yes, there were 2 stand-ins game 1, and then game 2, I believe it was just their normal team. But what's interesting with Paradox is that I think they're gonna have a roster shift, or maybe even something more major recently. I mean, this is content, so I'm allowed to be a little bit of a drama whore, but I don't want to make too much trouble for the admins with spreading drama unnecessarily. But they did confirm that is account sharing. Not necessarily in league matches, but there's just multiple people using the account, based on replays and the camera movement and a couple other things. There's one person that plays in the league games, plays on AD2L games, and a different person that plays in the pubs that he's been playing recently. So I think it's pretty likely that isn't on the team by the next week's games or 2 weeks games, whatever. But we'll see, I guess. I don't think admins have made a decision yet, so it does make ranking the team a little hard. I think if they lose a player, especially a player that's been performing really well, I am tempted to move them down a tier for the same reason that Vapor's in the C tier. It's just team unity is important, I think. And especially if you have a team. I think Paradox has kind of been around for a while. Let's see. Paradox Gaming. Oh, they played season 28, so maybe not like a while, but they did play one this season. I don't know. I think to lose a player that's been performing really well and you played with for 3 weeks would kind of suck, but I mean they're still doing okay. Like the other players are definitely doing well. So as long as they got a fine replacement, I think they're probably still. I think I'll just leave them at B tier. I guess it's also possible they get kicked out entirely, but we'll see. That seems unlikely. I don't think that'll happen. But anyway, that's your drama for the week. Let's get to predictions before I forget. Okay, I think this week is a lot better in terms of like matchups. I think most of these like all of these matchups I think pretty much are interesting. I think we're finally at the point where the Swiss system has mostly worked itself out with the with the exception of this one. I think the Swiss system's worked itself out, and a lot of these games look really good. We'll start with Paradox versus Victoria's Secret. These are both teams that seem very heavy like middling teams for me. They seem to have very good games, especially certain players, I think, that have very good games and really go off. And they also just have games where they seem to just lose. They're both 3-3, so, but I guess that's not really saying much. They win 3, they lose 3. But some of the wins have been very convincing, I think. Victoria's Secret, I'd argue, has had a better start. Paradox does seem very unstable, though. Or not unstable, but like... Yeah, maybe unstable is the right word. Inconsistent. Paradox have had some really good series, some weak series. They seem to use a lot of stand-ins. It seems like every week they're having to grab stand-ins, whereas Victoria's Secret is actually like just sticking with a roster. So, uh, yeah. I don't know. Paradox has some very good games though. I think the safe choice would be a 1-1 here. Um, but if Paradox does have an additional wrench thrown in the works by getting removed or something, I think it could probably be a 2-0 for Victoria's Secret. Master had really good games last week as well, and I'm a bit of a fanboy, obviously, but I do think if he's doing well in the new patch or whatever, they're getting good heroes for him. I don't know. They looked like they did pretty well last week. They did almost lose a game to the Legend team, but nah, actually no, fuck it. We're just sticking with the 1-1. I talked a lot, but I didn't say anything. Spoke a lot, but didn't say anything. I think it's gonna be a 1-1. I think if it's gonna be 2-0, I'd probably go for Victoria's Secret, but It's probably just going to be 1-1. I don't know. Paradox seems to just be all over the place. I think there's a very good chance they come out and win a game, but I think Victoria's Secret is almost guaranteed to win a game, win at least one game. Vapor versus DC Clan. Now, Vapor's the team that's really interesting in terms of their roster, I guess. They haven't been using lots of stand-ins like Paradox is, and they're playing in 3 leagues, so arguably they are more stable, but they have gotten rid of 2 players in like a week, so that is pretty intense. DC Clan, I mean, God, why are all these teams so fucked? DC Clan also used like a bunch of stand-ins early on, all in the same game, which got them forfeited. But yeah, this one's a pretty hard call as well. Like I said, we're at the point where I think a lot of these matchups are very even. So I how's Vapor even played? I feel like this is the one. I think this is maybe the only team I haven't actually watched a game of. I think I've watched a game of every other team. I haven't watched these people play. This was the game they did better in too, right? This is the game where they really got dumpstered. I feel like DC Clan has been having a better time. They took a game off Victoria's Secret. 2 Grid Ethereal isn't interesting. They wrecked Idiots, but that was with 3 stand-ins. That doesn't count for much. I'd probably lean towards DC Clan 2-0ing. Similar with Victoria's Secret. I'll give it a 1-1. I'll take the easy road, but if I think DC Clan is the team that's most likely to 2-0. I think they're the team, maybe not guaranteed to win one game like Victoria's Secret, I think is, but I think DC Clan is more likely to 2-0 than Vapor is to 2-0, but we'll go with the 1-1. Grin Ethereal versus Anti-Kithra. This is definitely the time for both of these teams to potentially win a game. Grin Ethereal is definitely favored, but Anti-Kithra has been having some good series here. I think Grin lost harder, honestly. It seems like Anti-Kithra really almost won a game against Victoria's Secret, at least in terms of the net worth graph. It looks like they were winning. They took a Rex too, right? I'm just gonna reopen these. I'll go over all these games and end up like looking at them again anyway. Uh, yeah. They were doing pretty well for a while, and they got a Rex, so that was pretty impressive against Victoria's Secret. So I could put a 1-1 again, but honestly, I don't know. I think Grin Ethereal could probably just 2-0 here. They've also been having some close games, so they played what, Paradox? They just took a game off Paradox. 2-0 versus DC Clan. And they played like WSS week 1, right? That's just a free fucking loss. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll 2-0 Grin Ethereal. I'll believe in them. This won't move them up a rank. They have to win against any other team to move up a tier, I think. But I think that's the most likely outcome. I wouldn't be shocked if Anti-Kithra took a game. They seem to be doing well. If they actually 2-0'd, I would be surprised. Once again, I don't think it would. I couldn't justify that moving them up a tier, but if they 2-0'd, it would definitely be impressive. I think it would make the season worth it to see a legend team beating out Grin Ethereal. I think that would be really funny. Grin Ethereal seem like nice guys, but the idea of them joining Divine League and then getting last place to a legend team would just be so fucking funny. Anyway, Wards and Base for Coconuts Gaming. This is easy. Coconuts Gaming is very good. Wards and Base aren't necessarily bad, but they've had a rough season at a minimum. Maybe they are bad. Hell, I don't know. They haven't been looking too hot. They've been a bit rough. Coconuts Gaming has been looking a lot stronger. They were like pubbing today too. Scrub and Chen hit them in a pub. They 2-stacked and ran into their 3-stack and won a game together. So they're active as well. Mato Jam is super good. I think Mato Jam looks like just way better than anyone on Wards and Base team. I think Wards and Base have a pretty good mid, right? But I don't think he's been having games like Mato Jam has been having games. So that one's easy. This is like the one mismatch remaining, I think. Coconuts had a really fucking rough first 3 weeks. They lost a very intense series to us, and they had to play Hellbears. So I think they'll potentially end the season 8-4. I think, despite the fact they're 2-4 right now. Dumbledore versus Creature. Hey, this is my match. We actually scrimmed Dumbledore yesterday. We're like, hey, we should scrim. That would be cool. And then today the matchups came out. We're playing for real. So yeah, that's interesting. We did win both of the scrim games, but I'd argue Dumbledore played better. Fuck, what even happened? Game 2 was the weirdest shit. At one point I said we could like GG out because it's just a scrim, and we basically lost the game. We're like, nah, we'll just chill, we'll just play it out, it's fun. And then we won somehow. It was very strange. And then game 1 we just unleashed our super sick and very secret 7.28 tech. That kind of crushed them. So I don't know. I think Dumbledore's still very good. I wouldn't be surprised if they 2-0'd us. I wouldn't be surprised if we 2-0'd them. I'll just give it a 1-1. When I played Wasted Extra, we won 1, so we'll keep with tradition. Wasted Idiots versus Wilgang. Wilgang has looked pretty solid. Wasted Idiots has looked like a hot mess, to be honest. They have gotten 2 forfeit wins. They've gotten a win where they were losing for the entire game. Even when they won, they were still losing. And what else have they done? They took a game off Vapor, I guess. They did almost crush Vapor. Their performance against Vapor was very good. But their performance last week was not very good. I obviously will be cheering for them to 2-0. I believe they can 2-0. I'd even say I believe they will 2-0, but for the sake of an objective, or I mean, it's never fully objective, but I do think on paper, if I'm really thinking about it logically, the most likely outcome is a 2-0 for Wilgang, because I think Wilgang has had pretty solid performances. They had to go. They've really only had one real week. Hellbears may as well be a reverse bye where you just automatically lose 2 games. So, but they played. I don't know. They kind of owned us. So, I think they're scary. But we'll see. If Idiots win a game, maybe we'll move them out of the bad tier or something. Maybe if anyone loses to Idiots, they just go immediately to the bad tier from now on. That's just where they'll be for the rest of the season. But Hellbear versus O's, this is, I mean, I don't necessarily know if this is the most interesting match to me personally. I think chances are Hellbears just crush, because they always do. But in terms of standings, this is the first place team versus the second place team, at a point where the standings actually kind of mean something. So, to that degree, it will be interesting. In theory, it should be good Dota. So I'll give the Hellbears. I don't really think the Hellbears is losing anytime soon. Once they if they show that they can bleed, if someone takes a win off of them, maybe I'll stop predicting them to 2-0 every week. But just looking at the Dota buffs, I haven't watched any of their games. I know that's true. I said Vapor was the only team, or no, I said oh god, my throat's getting dry. Who did I say? I said one of these teams was the only team I hadn't watched play. That's a lie, because I haven't watched Hellbear play either. Oh, maybe it was Anti-Kithera. I haven't seen them play. Yeah, that was probably it. If I said it about Vapor, I was lying. Because I definitely did watch them play. But either way. Purely based off Dota buffs, Hellbear is looking just undefeatable. Master and Lethal Kittens have an amazing game every game. And Critical, Boomy, Control, whatever their name is, seems to have a good game most games as well. I mean, they're playing Pause 1, so part of that is going to be, if you're 2 and 3 are having a good game, you probably have space. But even then, they're putting up great KDAs. So they're at least doing something with the farm after. They do eventually show up and at least steal some kills. So I don't know. They look insane. Team O's looked beatable, I think. Their series against Dumbledore was very close, very back and forth. Dumbledore is a very good team, but I think both Dumbledore and O's, they're just like an entire tier below Hellbears. I think Hellbears is out of their league in a different way than you would normally say that phrase. They're just fucking better than everyone. So 2-0. Yeah. I guess that's it, huh? That's all we got here. The tier list hasn't changed much. We've gone ahead and had to move Coconut Gaming down for now. We have the sad tier, which is Hellbears, O's, and Dumbledore. And I think it's safe to say those really are the 3 best teams right now. O's and Dumbledores seem very similar. Wait, we'll actually up this tier. We're gonna make this the S+ tier, because I think they are just so dominant right now in Hellbears. I will not be shocked if they end the group stage 12-0. But Teemos and Dumbledores are also looking very good. I think they will both be at least in the top 4 by the end of the group stage. Um, the B and C tier is a little interchangeable. I think the teams I have in the B tier, I do think are better than the teams. All of them, all teams in the B tier are better than the C tier. So I'm happy with the way that looks. But they aren't that far apart in skill. They are pretty close, and I think some of those B tier teams aren't that far from O's and Dumbledore either. But it's enough to warrant separating them out a little bit. And then F tier is what it is. Bad tier is a special tier for a special group of individuals. Special in multiple ways. Alright, well that's it for this week. I think it was a little shorter than normal. Hopefully that's... Oh, fuck, it's 50 minutes. Well, whatever. See you next week.